Welcome to Taco Tuesday, and this is a sort of fall flavor that we're going to combine in a taco. It certainly won't be like anything that you've ever seen before, because I'm going to start with some of the fall squashes that you see coming into the markets, farmers markets, grocery stores. I've got three of them over here. One is the delicata, the other is the more common acorn squash, and this is kabocha squash here. And I treat them all sort of the same way when I'm going to do them for a taco filling. It's something that I came up with just a few years ago, and now I use it at home all the time. And it's to use the microwave for cooking rather than trying to cook these in the oven for a longer period of time. So I'm going to do delicata today. I'm cutting it in half first. And if you get a small delicata, then you will be able to eat it, the skin and all. That may sort of surprise you. Take the seeds out. You could do this with the seeds in it if you wanted, because it's a little easier to get them out at the end. But you scrape the seeds out of it. And then I like to wrap it in plastic wrap. And a delicata of this size will take about 7 or 8 minutes to get completely tender. This is actually one that's a little bit larger than what I like to use for this particular kind of preparation because the seeds are easier to get out of the smaller ones, and the skin will be just a little bit softer. Okay, let's pretend that that's all out of there, and then you wrap it in plastic. 7 or 8 minutes in the microwave, and this is what it's going to look like when it comes out here. I've got some of it that's already chopped up. You can see I'm including the skin on there, but I have to now chop up this extra piece of it here. So you'll see how the skin is super tender. It reminds me a little bit of a pear skin that can be sometimes just noticeable. And then we'll cut it across like that. Okay, that is going to go into a skillet now with a little bit of browned butter. So I've got butter here. I let it go until it actually turns nicely brown. That's the way you get more of the butter flavor. And we're going to start to brown it there. Okay, now onto the thing that's going to make it super Mexican tasting, and that is salsa macha. It's not one of the salsas that you see a lot. It's not one of the classic old style salsas, but boy, like in the state of Veracruz and all in the upper west coast, all the way up through Baja, everybody is eating salsa macha, and it's an oil-based sauce that will remind you a little bit of chili oil with the pieces of chili in it that you see in Asian cooking. I'm going to give this just a flip, and I'm going to show you how you make it. Okay, so the first thing is to choose what kinds of seeds and nuts you want in this, and I already have some toasting here. I have the oil. I use a lot of oil when I'm making salsa macha because I like to use the oil for a dressing as well. Some pieces of garlic cut in half, sesame seeds, and almonds. And I combine those over a kind of medium heat, and they are toasted now. You can look in there and see that the almonds have a light brown color to them, and the sesame is the same way. Okay, when that is done, you take it off of the fire. Okay, so turn that one off. And then I'm going to put it over here and add chili to it. And I'll show you what this is, chili guajillo. I'm going to add the chilies into it off the fire because that oil will be just hot enough now to toast the chilies. So we'll stir them into that hot oil now. And I'm going to combine some vinegar, about a tablespoon of vinegar, with a teaspoon of salt, and blend that together. This will be our seasoning for this salsa macha. Sometimes salsa macha is made without the vinegar, and you could feel free to do that, but I think that it's more dynamic when you add just a little bit of acid to it, and that acid will soak into the chilies. Okay, so now that salt is dissolved in there, so we'll scrape that into the mixture there. Usually I let this sit for about 5 minutes to cool off a little bit, but just for the sake of time right now, I'm going to continue on to the next step of making my salsa macha, which is to pour this hot mixture into the blender jar. Because it's still warm, I've taken the center part of the top out here, and with the on the lowest speed, I'm going to start blending it. This will allow me to be able to stop this at the point where I think it's got the right consistency, which is kind of coarse. Turn it off for just a second. Take my beautiful delicata squash off of the heat here, and that'll be ready for us when we come back to this. We go back to our blending now. So the almonds are the hardest. They're going to take the most time, but so is the skin of that chili, that guajillo chili. And we are just about to where we want it to be. I think I'm going to give it just a touch more speed and say that we're done. Now I have one that's already made and blended and cooled off completely, and I'll show you what that looks like. First of all, you have to see that there is all of this oil at the top. That can just be spooned off and used for sautéing different things. It's really great to sauté shrimp or potatoes. The solids is what we're going to use for this particular preparation. Oh, by the way, that oil is also really good in a salad dressing. It'll have both the nuttiness of the almonds and sesame as well as a little chili flavor. So I'm going to scoop it up. Now just take a look at how that has been ground up. It's a coarse grind there. Pieces that are about 1/16 of an inch thick. So I'm going to spoon some of that now into the skillet. And again, it's as much as or little as this salsa macha as you like. Toss that in here, the browned delicata squash. Just mix it all together. This whole thing is going to need just a little bit of salt sprinkled over the top of it, because remember that the delicata itself was steamed in the microwave, and now we're ready to build tacos. So I'm going to put out 2 soft tortillas onto our plate here, and I am going to start to build it with a little of the delicata and salsa macha. Look how beautiful that is. Now, you could just stop right here, but I think that this is better if it has a little bit of crumbled cheese on the top of it, like a fresh cheese. So I've got some beautiful fresh goat cheese that I'm going to put on top of it. And whoops. That creaminess of the cheese, along with the toastiness of the guajillo chili, is really, really beautiful. Okay, now if you want to, you could put some cilantro on there. This one I'm going to cut up in the kind of classic Mexican style, which is to slice the leaves and the stems all together, and then sprinkle. It's really sliced cilantro rather than chopped cilantro, but we call it chopped, and we'll sprinkle that over the top of it there. And there you have a fall taco of brown delicata squash, salsa macha, goat cheese, and cilantro. Sounds just right for the time.